Hi friend, this is Akudo. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about how I've been in therapy for about 10 years now. Side note, I am leaving therapy very soon, but that's not the point of this video. What is the point of this video though, is that a bunch of people did ask me how to find a therapist. How do you find a therapist? What do you do? What happens? And things like that. So I took all of these questions and went directly to my therapist and asked her. I said, ma'am, a lot of my viewers want to know how to find a therapist. Can you let me know how to find one? And then she gave me all the details and all the good information about how to find a therapist. She also offered a good insight on what to do if your relationship with your therapist isn't going very well. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you're wondering how I even came up with the idea of having a therapist or what happened, the thing is, when I was in middle school, I did go through something super difficult, and I ended up attempting self-harm, and that didn't go very well for me. And throughout that, I had to go to a hospital because I was feeling super depressed. I was feeling lonely. I had a lot of anxiety and things like that. So throughout that, after the attempted self-harm, I took therapy for about a year. And then after a year, I felt fine. And then I was able to finish high school just fine. And then after that, everything was pretty seemingly okay. And then I moved from college. That's when things kind of started getting a little bit crazy again. Transitioning from high school to college is super difficult. And people don't I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that enough. And I had a really hard time transitioning. The first 2 years when I was in college, everything seemingly was okay. In the middle of college, though, I decided to kind of move into my own apartment. And then the loneliness started again, and then the depression started again, the anxiety issues started again. And I had ideas in my head about self-harm again, which wasn't a good sign for me because I did not want to go down the road of attempted self-harm or even actually self-harming myself and having things go really crazy. Instead of letting things fester, I decided to do something about it. At the time, I had low income, so I was able to have insurance. And throughout the insurance, I was able to get therapy. I was able to get therapy. And this is all through the city. And through the city, I was able to get in contact with my therapist that I'm seeing right now. The requirement that I wanted for therapy was just an older woman. I didn't care what she was. I didn't care what race she was. I didn't care what she was, you know, I didn't care anything about that. I just wanted a woman, and I wanted somebody older, like around my mom's age at that time, or even a little older than my mom. So that's how I ended up getting in contact with the woman I'm seeing right now. And she has been amazing to me ever since then. The person you see in front of you, this light, approachable person, is due to therapy. So because of her, I've been able to change my life. I'm not saying that she worked some miracle and I no longer have self-harm ideations. I do sometimes, but because of her, I've been able to kind of deal with them and manage it very well. So these are the things that my therapist told me about finding a therapist. So just to define some words, because I know that sometimes there's some confusion as to what, a counselor versus a therapist versus a psychiatrist is. A psychiatrist just gives you medication. So they are the ones that are responsible for kind of giving you good physical health. They want to work on the brain, which is physical, so they want to work on the brain and how to make the brain feel better. So they just give you medication. They can't work with you mentally because they don't know, because they're essentially they're doctors, right? And they can't work with you mentally. So that's when you have to have a therapist will work with you mentally and to get the emotional side of things going, and that's mostly through talk therapy. So the first thing she told me is go to psychology.com. No, this isn't some weirdo way to get an advertiser on this video. This video is not sponsored at all, but she did say go to psychology.com because psychology.com does give you more control as to who you want, what you want, and what area you live in and stuff like that. You can get really good information on psychology.com. She says that there are two ways to find a therapist that will work for you. She said first you need to identify what you want. Do you want to do a more specific type of work, or do you want to go a little bit deeper or more broad with what you're looking for? A specific type of work is something like grieving somebody you lost, or you're going through a divorce and you really need a therapist for that. or you're going through some sort of transition in your life and you really need a therapist for that, or you recently broke up with your boyfriend, or you really need a therapist for that. Or the other way is you're trying to work on something super deep inside of you, some sort of trauma that's happened to you in the past that you're trying to work on. You're trying to figure out what happened between your parents and what happens now and how they raised you. You're trying to work on how to be just a better version of yourself, how to build confidence and things like that, right? So those are the two ways you need to go about finding a therapist that works for you. Once you decide the avenue that you want to take, this is where you need to go and find a therapist that matches those specific needs that you want. So this is where she got a little bit more detail with me when it comes to finding a therapist. After you've defined the two ways you want to go about therapy, that's when you need to look for specific trainings that the therapists have. So you would find that on Psychology Today. So if you are looking to grieve somebody that has unfortunately passed, you need to find a therapy that has training in that, right? Because if you don't, then you don't know, they aren't able to help you. That wouldn't make any sense. But if you're just looking for more like depression, anxiety, social issues that you want to work on, look for a therapist that it has specialized in that. If you're looking to get a divorce or something like that, you would probably need a family therapist for that. That's why it's important to get very, very specific about what you want in therapy so that you can go ahead and find the right therapist. So the next step is kind of literally meeting your therapist, right? My therapist recommends that you interview at least 1 to 3 therapists. That's how you know if they're going to go very well. So just interview them and talk to them. Maybe go to 1 or 2 sessions with each of them to make sure that the relationship is going to work out. So once you've interviewed 1 to 3 therapists, you should be able to get a good gauge on what works and what works for you. She says that of course therapy isn't like an overnight thing, and of course you're not going to be able to heal overnight, but give it a few shots. The next piece of advice that she actually gave me, she was super blunt about. She says that a lot of people have tendency to just kind of reject the therapist all the time after 2 to 3 sessions, and they don't really feel like they just keep saying like it's not working out, it's not working out, it's not working out. She literally told me that if you keep having an issue with your therapist every time you meet a therapist, one, the therapist just probably sucks. Like the therapist that you've been seeing have probably sucks, or they're not dealing with your issues that you want specifically, or two, you literally might be the problem. Like she said that to me. She said that you might be the problem just because you don't really want to work on the issues that you want to work on. That's why you're probably having a hard time with therapists, is because you don't really want to work on certain issues. If it gets too tough, you want another one, and then you say that my therapist just isn't working for me. My therapist just isn't working for me. She says that your therapist shouldn't be biased, which makes sense. They should be able to work with you. She says that your therapist shouldn't be making anything about themselves. That's not a good therapist either. You shouldn't be talking about yourself in therapy. So if your therapist is doing that, kick him out the door. So go to psychology.com. As long as you're very specific about what you want, as long as you're actually ready to work on things that you want to work on, then all of these tips and tricks should actually help you find a really good therapy. As I said before, therapy isn't perfect. It's not some magical thing that will help you out. It's not going to be an overnight thing. You have to literally take the time. When you have been in therapy long enough, you will look back on your life and go, I am this way because I've been in therapy for so long. I love talking to her about this. I thought it was a really insightful conversation because she was really literally wanting to make sure that I get the correct information out to people. So I really enjoyed talking about this. I hope that if you are on a therapist journey, I hope you find a really good therapist that will help you with life, with whatever you want. I hope this video helps you find a therapist. I hope you find a really good one. Thank you so much for watching this video. YouTube should be recommending some videos right now for you to watch. Please watch all of the video towards the end so I can get some money, and I will get back here next time with you with another video. Have a good day. Bye.